What is going on, YouTube? And welcome back to another video. It's about 4:41 on September 16th. I just got home from work. I'm about to go hit my second workout for the day. I'm officially like 4 days out. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 4 days out from my first Spartan Stadion. I'm a little nervous, excited, all in one. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about habits. My last video that I released was more of a kind of a podcast video, which I said I really enjoy doing just because I feel like that is where I'm strongest at, is communicating. And all the things that I read, all the things that I watch, all the things. First off, let me backtrack since I just jumped straight into it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bryce Dettorre. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a special education teacher for high school, and I'm a Spartan, aka I do fitness races, I guess you could say, hybrid races. I like Spartan races, I do the high roxes, I do the decas. So this channel originally started off as a fitness channel, but what it's really geared into is my message has always been don't be average. But since becoming a father, my main priority right now is a motto that I live by and something that I strive to be is not your average dad. I don't want to look like the average dad. I don't want to talk like the average dad. I don't want to love my wife like the average dad. I don't want to love my daughter like the average dad. I want to be the best father that I can be for my daughter, and in doing that, that also ties in with being the best husband I could be for my wife. And a lot of people on this channel are kind of in that same boat. I don't consider myself a content creator. I don't consider myself a fitness influencer. I would not say I am any of those roles. I would say, the typical normal American, even probably average American life, but I'm trying to do it in an exceptional way, if that makes sense. And I think that's where a lot of people have connected with this channel, as they can relate. I was talking to one of my subscribers the other day, and he was saying he relates to my channel because he's a father, he's a husband, he's a father, he works a 9-to-5 job, and I was telling him, I said, yeah, it's very hard to find a YouTube channel where it's like the person is not a full-time content creator or fitness influencer or owns their own business. I am a teacher. I'm literally a high school teacher, but I created this channel with the point of one day my daughter is probably going to be watching these, and I hope that my message lives on so that she's able to watch and learn from those, if that makes sense. And where I get all this information from, I definitely don't come up with it myself. I enjoy reading. I love reading. I read about a book a week. I read the Bible every day. But anyways, let me get straight into what I talk to my students about, and then something that's just been kind of on my mind that I felt like I should share with you guys, because I feel like, again, anytime I feel like this would help me, the reason why it helps me is because it's an area that I struggle in. And again, I'm trying not to be the average person, so I know I struggle with this area like the average person. If it helped me, that means it would help the average person. So that is the whole point of it. So this video is going to be talking about habits, and how I think habits are very important. And the reason why is I actually read this quote. I read it to my students, and this quote was, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." And I had this whole conversation, I had this whole PowerPoint, and I did this whole presentation on habits. I teach English, so I was able to tie it into all the standards and kind of get them to think and work in groups, have discussions. I think discussion is very important, especially for high school students where they are always on their phones. Not just high school students, everybody's always on their phones. And it's very hard for people to be able to communicate their thoughts. So that is why I was doing this lesson, but I was talking to them about habits, and it was something that I was trying to instill in them, and I've seen this plenty of times before. I am a firm believer that if you can control your habits, create good habits, you can, in a way, ensure that you live the life that you want to live. And that goes for bad habits and good habits. And I talked to them about different cues. So you have certain cues, and I've read this in, I think, The Power of Habit, I want to say that was what the book called, but it talks about cues. Everybody has certain cues that when they wake up in the morning, for instance, my routine, I don't even have to think about it, and it was saying that your body doesn't like to have to process and make decisions. So if you have a habit, your body will look for that habit to make it use less energy in a way. So one of my habits that I wake up every single morning, I don't even think about this, I literally turn off my alarm clock, I walk to the garage, I disarm the alarm, I step on the scale, I enter my weight, I go into the kitchen, grab my oatmeal, come back in, eat, and then do my morning read. Everybody has their morning routine. It's all over social media right now. Everybody has their nightly routine. These routines, all they are just habits. You don't think about them most of the time. You don't need motivation to do them. You have certain habits that you do every single day. For instance, you probably wake up, brush your teeth. You might have a habit of that you shower before work or you shower before you go to bed, whatever it is. You have certain habits that you don't have to think of because there's a cue that sets that habit or that routine in place. So it basically goes, you have a cue, and this works for any type of habit that you have. You have a cue that sets it off. So for instance, that routine that I just said, my cue is my alarm clock going off, and then things spiral after that. That's the routine. The reward I get for that is I'm working out in the morning. I enjoy the way I feel after I work out. So there's cue, then there's routine, and then there's reward. Everything you do. For instance, if I have a cue that I come home, and it could be bad. So like some of the things I was talking with my students is some of them wish they weren't on their phone all the time, or they weren't going to bed so late. And a lot of their cues that I established or learned from after talking to them is they have a cue that when they lay in bed to go to bed, their cue is actually to reach for their phone, grab their phone, scroll through social media. Before they know it, they're spending hours on it, and then their reward is obviously the dopamine, laughing, watching things, whatever, entertainment. That's the reward. So the cue is lay down in bed, the routine is grab the phone and scroll, and then you get this reward of dopamine. You can take this for any sort of habit that you have, good or bad, like I said. And for instance, there was a couple students, and you could take this also for losing weight. So if you have a cue that when you get stressed, you reach for junk food, or you reach for sweets or chips or whatever it is, your reward or your cue is stress, your routine is reach for unhealthy food, your reward is the dopamine, the taste, the texture, whatever it is. That is your reward, and therefore it just repeats because your body now has a routine that it likes, and your body is always, and your mind is always looking for routines. So I had this conversation, and we went actually through everything and kind of broke down, and we each took a habit. I had the students take a habit that they would like to change. So they had to figure out the cue that set it off, whether that was mindlessly scrolling through your social media or your app, whether it was not going to bed late, whether it was I want to stop eating junk food, whether it was I want to eat healthier. That is what we went through with them. But what I was thinking about is also how much habits determine how you end up. And with my students, something that I see, and I try to instill this in them, and some people don't agree with me on this, but I am a firm believer that if you get in the habit of doing bad things, for instance, if there are rules at school, and there are certain habits, like a rule would be show up to class on time, a rule would be maybe not eating class, the rule might be no cussing in class, the rule might be do your homework. The rule might be respect the teacher, whatever it is. These are all certain rules that are at a very young age, and it could be all the way from like TK up until obviously, a senior in high school. TK, it might be like, hey, when you come in, you put your backpack up, or whatever it is. There's rules for certain things. There's rules for when you go to the grocery store. There's rules that are always in place. What I feel happens, and I've told this to my students, I said, guys, I'm doing this because I'm trying to get you accustomed to following rules. Because if you develop the habit of not turning in your work, and it goes with anything, we'll take I guess you could say discipline when it means to following directions. So if I develop the habit of I show up to class late, I do my work whenever I want, I don't listen to the teacher. If he tells me not to, eat in class, I eat in class. I sit wherever I want. I go to the bathroom whenever I want. If I am breaking all these rules, I'm developing bad habits of when I am told to do something, I don't do it. And I've told my students this before, guys, when you get into the real world, those rules, they're not called rules anymore, they're called laws. And if you have developed this habit again, some people are like, dude, just because you are late to class doesn't mean you're gonna, end up being a criminal. I'm not talking about the one infraction of a kid that shows up late or doesn't. I'm talking about the students that are habitually, or the people that are habitually, some employees habitually late to work. They're habitually late on their assignments that they need to turn in. They have these habits of bad habits that I believe when you do those, and I'm not saying that you're going to end up in jail, but if you develop those bad habits of doing work when you want, completing tasks when you want, you have developed that habit, which means your mind doesn't have to think about it, which excites the mind. So then when you get into the real world and your job, you're keeping that habit of, I turn in work whenever I want. I wake up whenever I want. I go to work whenever I want. And it kind of ties into what I was talking about last week when you listen to your feelings, and your feelings can get you in trouble, or your feelings can lead to unhappiness. I wake up every single morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock, depending on if Cassie works at a certain time or not. I don't really think about it anymore. I don't really have motivation for it anymore. I'm not even inspired by it anymore. It's just something that I have done for so long that I don't have to think in it. So I think my body likes to wake up at that time because it doesn't have to think about it. I am a firm believer that we have to develop habits, and I'm doing it with obviously my daughter at a very young age. I am instilling the habit in her that when you love someone, you do sweet things for them. We are Dettorres, so we don't we enjoy hard work. I was talking to her the other day about look for ways to do sweet things for people that you love. That is a habit that I am trying to instill for her, that she's always looking out, okay, how can I help mommy? Or how can I help daddy? Or how can I help my cousins? Like, these are habits that I'm trying to instill in her because I feel like once it's a habit, you never have to think about it. Even something as simple as please and thank you. You teach that to your kid. You teach them to say, when someone says, when you want something, you say, can you please do that? And when they do it, you got to immediately say thank you. You are trying to instill that habit to the point that when you are not around, because that day will come, they don't have to think. You don't have to be there to remind them. They already know because it's a habit. When you wake up, you do the things you don't want to do. You can develop that habit. You can develop, I believe, that muscle of you are really good at doing things you don't feel like doing. I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like waking up early. I don't feel like eating healthy. I don't feel like putting in an extra rep. I don't feel like doing the cardio. I don't feel like having that uncomfortable conversation with my wife. I don't feel like talking to my student. I don't feel like having to make a phone call home to the student. These are all things that if you go based off your feelings, you're going to avoid a lot of what I think opportunities for you to grow as a person. And I think when you grow, that is when that leads to happiness. So if you are avoiding growth, I believe that you are avoiding your happiness. So my point that I've been trying to make, which I pretty much got off on this tangent, which happens, what are certain habits that if you develop them, you would be able to maybe achieve your goal, maybe have a relationship that you want, maybe become the person that you want to become, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, or relationshiply. I don't even think that's a word. Relationship. In your relationships, if you develop and say, hey, what would my habits look like if I was someone who was, for instance, physically fit? Would they look like I eat whatever I want? Would they look like I work out whenever I want? No, there's certain habits. And like the quote says, excellence is not an act. Act is something you do once. Habit is something you do a lot, frequently, probably every day. So if you look at all the areas of your life, like someone who is religious probably prays every single day, might even read the Bible every day. Someone who's a good spouse probably has a deep conversation with their spouse every single day, probably hugs them, probably is intentional about listening to them, probably gives them, shows them affection whenever they can. That's probably a good spouse that has created these habits. Now, if you look at your other role, whatever that may be, I'm, again, a father. What are good habits that a father would have? And again, I'm definitely not saying that I hit these every single day. But I am a firm believer if you have certain goals and you're intentional about stuff, you will improve. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from perfect. But if I was to look at what are the good habits that would make a phenomenal father: listening, father that listens every single day to their child, a father that is present every single day, a father that shows emotion, a father that admits his mistakes, a father that looks for ways to allow his child to grow and not coddle them. These are all habits that I feel, what would a great father do in this situation? What would a habit be of a great father? And I'll list them. Again, my roles that I care about: husband, father, special ed teacher, and then again, my health. I always put health in there. I wrote down habits of what all of the best versions of those would look like, and I try every single day to hit them. I'm not saying I hit them every single day, but I promise you I'm probably getting closer at hitting them than someone who has never even written them down. I read this quote one time and it really stuck with me. It said, "The average person will aim at nothing and hit it every single time." That was a deep one. The average person aims at nothing and hits it every single time. As long as you are aiming at something, therefore you are not average, because I believe that the average person doesn't aim at anything. They don't really have goals. They're not thinking, they aren't asking themselves these questions of what makes a good husband, what makes a good father, what makes a good whatever you are. You may not be a teacher, you may be a nurse, doctor, construction worker. My dog gets so scared so easily. What makes a great, whatever it is you want to be. You could do this even if you aren't a father, even if you don't have a job. You could do what makes a great student, what makes a good brother, what makes a good sister, what makes a good son. All of those, there's certain habits that, again, will make you excellent. And it's not because it's just an act, it's because it's a habit that you have developed. Therefore, you are an excellent person at whatever role that is. So I wanted to do this video again to just basically talk about how important habits are. And I think if you develop good habits at whatever that is that you want to do, I think changing your habits could lead to happiness. I would even go as far as like changing it and saying excellence or happiness is not an act but a habit. And I think by changing your habits, you can literally create happiness. And I think happiness is actually a habit, something that you just develop, that you are happy. Again, I'm not going to say no matter what, because that's a bold statement, but you develop the intention of always trying to find the happiness in things. So anyways, those are some thoughts that I had this week. I got a lot of positive feedback from my last video that I did kind of in this, I guess you'd say viewing or video style, which was really cool because I was hoping to get some positive feedback. A lot of people said that they want more videos like that, so I appreciate you guys letting me know, because that means I'm going to keep doing this stuff. Obviously, I'm going to keep the fitness part because that's one of the roles. That's one of the pillars of my life. Like I said, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a teacher, and I like fitness. And I think in order to be the best role of in that areas, you do have to take care of yourself. You do have to take care of your health, because if you are a phenomenal father, a phenomenal husband, a phenomenal whatever your role is, but you do not take care of yourself physically, and you don't take care of your health, you're not going to be around to basically be the best version and be around for a very long time to have the impact of the people in your life, whether that be your spouse, your children, or whatever you do for work. So on that note, it's about 5 o'clock. I gotta get this second workout in. It's gonna be like a 20-minute AMRAP style workout. If you've been following me on Instagram, social media, I've been posting a lot of my 20-minute AMRAPs. I really like the 20-minute AMRAPs. I think it's a perfect workout for someone who has a busy schedule, to the point where I think I may actually even come out with like a program where it's literally just AMRAPs that you can throw in the mix throughout your week of when you are busy as a father or a husband. You don't have time for an hour workout, but you just need to get a good sweat in, get your heart rate up, and obviously at the same time build some muscles, build some muscular endurance. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing right now. Just sipping on some non-stim pre-workout to get me feeling like I want to go do something. It's not going to be like super hard workout because, like I said, I got 4 days and I got the Spartan Stadion. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I weighed in this morning, I think at 208, 210, something like that. A little heavier than I'd like to be. I actually went to sign up for the High Rocks in Anaheim in December. It was sold out like the day it got posted, so that sucks. But after the Spartan Stadion, I got a couple races that I'm looking at doing, so I'll let you guys know what those are. You'll see this video, and then the video after that will probably be a recap of my Spartan Stadion. And I'll do it the same style I always do. I'll actually videotape like the day, I'll videotape the race, and then I'll do like voiceover, kind of doing my thoughts, feedbacks, and then what I would do differently. So if you want to see that, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you have been here, one of my OG subscribers, I appreciate you. If you have any questions or anything, comment below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know if you would like to see more of these style videos. I'm again kind of like feeling out what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to do every video like this. I don't know if it's going to be maybe every other week. One video that's kind of like this. Next week maybe more of like a fitness, whether that's like the day in the life, full day of eating, workout vlogs, whatever it is. I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm going to do, but I decided I wanted to do this video just because, like I said, I think habits, really, if you look at most successful people, I don't know if it's that they're excellent in like certain, I don't think it's out of reach. Some people maybe, obviously, if you're like LeBron James, but I don't think if you looked at LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, all these people, if you were to look at their daily habits and you were to do what they did on a daily basis, I'm not saying you'd be the next Tom Brady, because obviously there's some God-gifted talents in all those people. But I wouldn't be surprised if you developed those habits and did exactly what they did every single day, if you would not improve in some way in your life. I would be willing to bet that your life would improve in multiple ways, if not a few different ways, if that makes sense. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and then you guys already know the motto: stay happy, stay healthy, and above all, don't be average. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.